Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome, you're tuned into Take My Advice on Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on CNBC News, NBC News, and NBC Sports radio station KCAA, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, Amazon Music, Audible, Tiki Live, Rumble, Podchaser, Spreaker, Treaker, you name it, I am there. Why? Because I want to maximize my splatter zone for more hope and happiness. So there's no gossip, no scandal, no K-words, no Kanye, formerly or now, no one talk here, because I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. So I have topics and guests to that end. If you'd like to see any of my 1,066 past show podcasts in the last 603 consecutive weeks on the air, please go free subscribe on my YouTube channel. And that way you can also come and chat with us. We have a very active, wonderful cashew gallery, as I call it. They're all very eager to meet my guest today, and I am just delighted to have a legendary actress. You may remember her from Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, Funny Face, Witness for the Prosecution, and much, much more. She recently received Lithuania's highest honor from President Valdis Adamkus at a magnificent ceremony in the Vilnius Presidential Palace, and Ruta Lee was presented a new honor by Lithuanian President Gitanas Nausėda and First Lady Diana at her Hollywood estate, which has and still entertains Hollywood elite like George Shakiris, Rich Little, Phyllis Diller, Bob Hope, Alex Trebek. On the other side, Michael Feinstein, just met him, super fun guy. Carol Channing, Hugh O'Brien, Sally Struthers, Debbie Reynolds, the Rat Pack, and many, many more. Miss Lee's connection to her old roots in Lithuania stem from her grandmother, whose release from Siberia made international headlines and the subject of her recently released best-selling memoirs titled Consider Your Assets Kiss. A title referencing the actions required and gratitude for a monumental effort to bring her family to America from Russia during the Cold War. At the time, her grandmother made all the news and even went on Johnny Carson with her. Please welcome to my studio, Ms. Ruta Lee.
Wow. For words. And I'm dazzled by your opening because you show some of the world's most beautiful people, but they're all doing beautiful things. And that's a great gift that the Almighty has given each one of us, is the opportunity to do the best we can for somebody who can't do it for themselves. And thank you for making it such a beautiful platform for those of us who give a damn about our fellow neighbors and families. And thank you for the opportunity, sweetheart.
Oh, I'm so glad we could make this happen. Ruta is streaming in from Mexico. We're getting a great picture right now. We had a couple of hiccups, but I'm so delighted that we were able to get you on. As soon as Harlan sent me your bio and what was happening, I'm like, I got to have her on. I love your energy. I love your spirit. I knew you were going to be sunny. And of course, you have nice yellow brain. So let's start with breakfast. And I didn't warn you about this. I usually don't warn any of my guests, but you know, there's so much bad news out there. And I'm known for balancing out all the bad news that's so readily available with good news. So I like to start every morning with breakfast with my guest, taking a bite out of my gratitude sandwich. So we go real quick, and the cashew gallery will participate as well. What are you grateful for? So I do 8 things. Dr. Wayne Dyer, who's also on the other side, said 5 things every day would keep your happiness at bay, in bay. I'm an overachiever. I know you thought I was Swedish, but I'm actually Chinese. And 8 is a lucky number. It's a homophone for good fortune. So we do 8 specific things you're grateful for. That's the top of the bun. So I'll start. I'm grateful for technology that allows me to have you on from Mexico.
Well, this morning, I'm grateful to have the opportunity to make myself a peanut butter and banana sandwich for breakfast, which
Beautiful.
wasn't all bad, and a big glass of cold milk to go with it. And I'm grateful to be able to sit on this glorious patio. And, every once in a while, Dr. Marissa, I sit at home and look at the bills and what it costs to keep whatever I've got here in Mexico. And I say, what in the world do I need that for? And then I get here and I walk out onto my terrace and look out at the sea and the mountains around it and everything that's going on. And I say, thank you, God. Now I know why I keep this place. So I'm grateful for that. I'm
Wonderful.
grateful that I have wonderful friends like you who
Mm,
give us a stage on which we can not just perform, but we can perform philanthropically as well, which I think is far more important than our singing and dancing and acting and whatever it is we do to make a living. But there is another thing I'm grateful for, that I get paid at the end of the week for doing what I love to do, which is to act, to sing, to dance, to talk, to sell, to whatever. I'm
that's
so grateful
beautiful.
to have that check at the end of the week. So far I've given you what, five
Yeah,
things
yeah,
I'm
you're
grateful.
done. You're good. You're good. Where it's 8 total. So I don't
I'll,
need to
I'll
do
give
any
you a
more
few more
gratitude.
as we go along.
All right, sounds good. And from Troy Bocelli, who is co-captain of my Cashew Gallery, who's streaming. Go to my YouTube TV channel, hit free subscribe. You'll get an alert every weekday morning that there's some good news coming on. And he is grateful for our beautiful guest sharing the beautiful Mexico weather with all of us. And that is the top of the bun. Now we're going to go to the bottom of the bun. And Ruta, I know that you're going to agree with me on this. Mental illness that is definitely starting, we're paying attention to it. I believe that the foundation and hallmark of illness or mental health, I'm sorry, is the ability to approve of yourself, the ability to take care of yourself. So you're not always out there looking for likes and who likes me and who approves of me. But if I can be good with me, 88% of the time, I'm going to be pretty much happy 88% of the time. So, in order to highlight and to exercise the muscle of self care, I ask my guests and my cashew gallery and myself, what do I like about myself? What do I approve of? So each one of us gets one, and we do really quickly, and we'll go around until we finish 8. So I like my ability to laugh often and much. So I appreciate my ability to be quick to laughter. It's my favorite sound. So, what do you like about yourself, Ruta?
My ability to bring a smile to every face that crosses my path,
And here, you do.
whether it's four-legged or two-legged, just bring a smile where it's unexpected.
Beautiful. I appreciate that I am articulate. That's
I
unusual.
appreciate that I also have that ability that God obviously gave both of us, and that is that the gift of the tongue, and to keep it nice rather than bitchy about anything.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Rick, you're going to have your finger on that dump. All right. I appreciate my sense of humor, even if no one else does. That's from Troy. He has a show on YouTube TV as well on Friday nights. I'm going to be his guest a week from this Friday. So you'll have to tune in to that. I appreciate my resilience that no matter how many times I get a little knockdown, I will get back up because that's just what I do. And one last one from you, Ruta. What do you like about yourself?
I think that I join your other guest, and that is that I have a wickedly wonderful sense of humor, and that even tragedy I see humor in. And I sometimes think people think I'm a little bizarre because I do laugh at very peculiar things. You know, a sweet sister of some nun's order slips on the street and slides on ice. I find it funny rather than saying, oh, that poor dear. So my humor, I think, absolutely is a lifesaver.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. And that is it for breakfast with Dr. Marissa and her guest, Ruta Lee, this morning. Thank you for joining us in this little Blissipline, hashtag Blissipline, an exercise that I promise you, if you do this for 28 consecutive days, then you will sandwich your day in the most positive way. So thank you for joining us for breakfast. And there. And if you've just tuned in and you're wondering what's going on in studio today, I have a beautiful guest. Her name is Ruta Lee, and she is a legendary actress. Uh, Troy was mentioning another movie that he knows you from, and Seven Brides for Seven what?
Brothers.
Brothers. Thank you. I was about to say Seven Men, but I knew that
That
wasn't
works too.
but she is here to just delight us with some true story about what she went through in trying to get her grandmother out of Siberia and more things, of course. But you are tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, home to the Asian Oprah, and the station that leaves no listener behind. Now, Ruta,
Yes, darling.
how did you get into acting in the first place? I'm sure that's a wonderful little snippet story that maybe not everybody knows. So
Well, I
tell me.
think that I was born an actress when I came out of the womb. My mother said as a child that I stopped and said hello and gave everybody, whether it was a drunk lying in the street or somebody else, kisses and hellos, and have always loved people and communicating with them in whatever way I knew how. So she thought that she knew nothing about theater at all. My darling Lithuanian mother and father came from the old country and couldn't get into the United States because the quotas were closed in 29. And so my father got a job working the wheat fields of Canada and then saved money and brought my mother over. And I was eventually born in Montreal. My mother didn't know anything about theater, but she did know from movies because she saw Shirley Temple. And she thought that I was Lithuania's answer to Shirley Temple. Therefore, I was pushed onto the stage, and it was always, of course, at church. And most Lithuanians are Catholic, so it was Saint somebody's or other, but mostly Saint Casimir, who is the patron saint of Lithuania. And so I did it from the time that I could walk. And then, thank God, we were transferred through my mother's, once again, kind thoughts and drive and resilience to come to California. And what else was there but movies? And my very first movie job was the movie that everybody remembers best, which is Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. What an auspicious first movie. Wow. And I've got to tell you, Dr. Marissa, I used to go to the warm up bar every day, you know, the exercise, the BARRE bar, the
Oh,
French bar.
yes.
And I would be doing the plies and the pointy foot and so on and so forth, and wondering, what in the world am I doing here? I am among some of America's best dancers. And I think I owed my Lithuanian polka that I did for part of my audition for Michael Kidd, who was the choreographer and this famous, world famous choreographer. And I think that's what got me the job. So being Lithuanian wasn't all bad when I remembered that. But what a great beginning it was. And those days, honey, we worked 6 days a week. This was the mid 50s. And it was one day weekend, you know, a Sunday was your day off. So it was a lot of hard work, but oh my God, I was young and silly and had no idea of how difficult it was. And it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. There aren't too many of us left that were in Seven Brides. Julie Newmar is still very much alive. Russ Tamblyn is very much alive. And I'm very much alive. So,
Absolutely.
so we see each other occasionally, which is very, very nice.
Oh, that's so awesome. How long was that on? That's a movie, right? That was
Yes.
that.
Well, I mean, it runs forever. Do you know that when I was going and when I got permission to go to Lithuania, and this was in the 60s, nobody was allowed into any of those satellite countries, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Poland, Czechoslovakia, unless you were a very high member of the Communist Party.
Mm,
And I did something rather outrageous, which is what you espouse, and that is never say never, just keep doing it until you get it.
mhm.
And I got permission from Khrushchev to come into Lithuania, and my darling grandmother, who had returned from Siberia after her 15 years. Why? I mean, nobody ever knew why she was deported to Siberia. My grandfather died en route on the cattle car that they were being shipped out to Siberia on. At one of the way stations, when they stopped and took off his boots, the flesh came off with it. Gangrene had set in. His legs were frozen.
Mm,
It was a horrendous life, and my next book I will dedicate to that, and
mm.
not the one chapter that I gave it in Consider Your Assets Kissed.
Which is
Uh,
the name of the book.
yeah.
Yes. Now, before I forget, I was also born in Canada, so we have that
Where?
in Ontario.
Oh, oh, I used to do
And
my
I will.
summers in Ontario in Lake Colborne. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I know exactly where that is. And my
Yeah.
father got his PhD at McGill in Montreal.
Oh, for heaven's sake,
So
McGill.
we're related in other ways.
We surely are. I'm so glad to finally meet you. I'm so happy.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go back to, so did you know your grandparents?
I knew nothing.
Okay. So
I
you're
mean, I was very young, and I was the first of us when we came to the United States to become a citizen of the US. My parents were still on Lithuanian quota, and the Lithuanian quota was filled with the displaced persons after World War II that were scattered all over the world and trying to get into the United States. By some miracle, we got a visa to come in. And I immediately started making out what we call vizovs in Russian. And that is an invitation in English, Lithuanian, and Russian, basically saying, "Dear Grandmama, because you're old and you are, a burden on your family and thereby the state, I want you to come to California where the climate is better for your health and to come and spend your last years in my care, right? And I will assume all responsibility financially."
mm,
That has to be notarized. The notary seal then has to be sent to the city, and the city seal gets approved. Now you send the whole package to the state, Sacramento. They put their seal on it. Then you send the whole thing to the State Department in Washington, and they put their seal on it. And these three pieces of paper are now a pound thick. And you send it to the Soviet Union. The local commissar takes a look at it, is very impressed with all the ribbons, says "niet," and 6 months later I had to start all over again.
oh, yeah,
I started
meaning
doing this
no.
when I was 16.
Wow. Wow.
12 years it took me. 12 years, and I still kept getting "niet, niet, niet." And I went out with friends when I'd gotten home from the studio one day, and my mother is in a spate of tears, crying because a letter had come from one of my cousins saying that her mother, and therefore my grandmother, was saying her thank yous for all the packages that we had sent them through the years that helped them sustain their lives,
Mm,
and saying goodbyes and thank you for the clothes for her to be laid out in. That was the most important thing for a Lithuanian lady, was to have the scarf, the babushka, and the white apron and the black dress or skirt or whatever to be
Mm.
laid out in.
Wow.
And I went out with friends, and sweetheart, the more wine they poured, the more obvious it became that I had to do something rather dramatic. So when I got home and still in somewhat of a wine haze, I placed a call to Nikita Khrushchev, the Kremlin, Moscow, USSR. And that rotten American operator said, "Well, how do you spell Khrushchev?" Well, who knew where the and the shish and the were? But long story short, after about 12 back and forths of niet, 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 and my talking to the Soviet embassy in Washington and getting niet, niet, niet from the window washer to the upstairs maid, I finally got a call from the operator who said, "Miss Lee, Mr. Khrushchev knows speak it English. You speak it with his interpreter." Well, I remembered he carried a very handsome young man with him that spoke Russian and fluently and English obviously fluently. And my father, who was fluent in Russian, would laugh and say Khrushchev didn't say that while he was banging his shoe on the podium. He was really quite rude, and this interpreter made it palatable to our ears. And those were the days, Dr. Melissa, where you could make a person to person call. And a lot of your viewers are too young to know what person to person is, but you paid probably twice the amount to make the call, but you didn't pay for it unless you got the party you wanted to talk to.
Mm.
So they said, would you speak it with interpreter? And I said, yes, 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 that'll be great. He came on the line and said, "Miss Lee, we know all about you in the Soviet Union. We run your movies here. What can I do for you?" And I explained to him that I wanted to come to Lithuania, and not only come to Lithuania, but I wanted to bring my parents. And the State Department had said, "Don't take your parents because they could be detained as primary citizens of the
Mm.
Soviet." And I said, "Oh, God isn't going to be that unkind. So I want to bring my mother and father for the first time in 35 years since they left, that they will be seeing their family."
Wow.
And I must have pushed the right button because he said, "Speak to my congressman or the senator." And I said, "What in the world does my senator have to do with my traveling in your country?"
Mm.
And he said, "Present yourself again in 30 minutes to the Soviet embassy in Washington." And I thought, oh, I'm
And
going to get the go around again.
right. Nothing yet.
This time I called and I was connected immediately to the first secretary. And the first secretary was Lithuanian. And I'm fluent in Lithuanian. And long story short, er, within 48 hours, my parents and I were on a flight, Pan Am, to Lithuania, and it was an incredible adventure. And my darling
Mm.
grandmother had been moved from the little earthen hut that she lived in to Kaunas, which is the second biggest city, to a wonderful hospital. The staff and the doctors were wonderful. And we went, they all were there to greet the Americans. They couldn't believe their eyes. There were real Americans crossing their paths. And when I say hospital, it was lovely. The staff was great. The doctors were great. They didn't have aspirin. And this is the middle 60s. No,
Wow.
never mind the drugs that they needed. But 6 months
Wow.
later, I was permitted to come back, and I was given permission to take her back to the United States. And sweetheart, she got off the plane. We didn't have jetways in those days.
Mhm.
We just
Mhm.
had the stairs. She walked down those stairs, dropped to her knees on
Mm.
the tarmac, kissed the ground,
Mm.
up and said, "Hello, America."
Oh, what a beautiful story. And Troy saying the same thing. He's blessed to have heard this today. That's why I brought her on. I wanted to, we originally had scheduled her to come on in October, and we're definitely have to get her on. I have to get her on because of this. This story is so beautiful. If you've just tuned in and you're wondering what's going on here, legendary actress Ruta Lee is sharing a true story of how she under a little bit of liquid courage, a direct call to Khrushchev to get her and her parents back into Lithuania to basically bring her grandmother to America. And we're going to be right back. We're going to take a quick break with more of this story. But thanks for tuning in to KCAA AM 1050 FM 106.5, the station that leaves no listener behind. We'll be back in two and two. Want to find happiness? Well, it's looking for you. 8 Ways to Happiness from Wherever You Are by Dr. Marissa Pay is a self-help book on steroids with practical concepts and exercise that will help you find the love you've been looking for inside yourself. It's a cross between I'm okay and you're still okay. And if you do the exercises, you will never hate yourself the same way again. For an autographed copy of this #1 bestseller, go to www.drmarissa.life or just order at Target, Walmart, and Amazon today. You can choose happiness because pain in life is mandatory, but suffering is optional.
Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome back. You're tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using a hip balance with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, NBC News Radio, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and my YouTube TV channel. Free subscribe there. You'll not only get all 1,066 shows, you'll get a red carpet playlist with all of my fabulous interviews, Halle Berry, John Travolta, Quincy Jones, and more, and my short film, PPP, Post-Pandemic Possibilities. That's what happens when motivational speakers are canceled during COVID. They find other things to do, and I'm so delighted. Thank you so much for all the great things that have been said about the film. It just got the first laurel. And I played the book promo because guess where I am today? I am book signing again back in Berkeley, California right now for the holidays with my kids in San Francisco. And you know, I love to combine business with pleasure. So I'm at Fern's Garden in Berkeley today at 4 p.m. If you're in NorCal, I will see you there this afternoon. I'll be doing a reading about a book that affirms how one of a kind wonderful you are. So that's it for today, and welcome back to the show. I am delighted. It is Talent Tuesday, and I have a legendary talent. Her name is Ruta Lee. You will remember her from Seven Brides and Seven Brothers and so much more. She is a delightful, shy like me. Sarcasm is another service I offer. A wonderful woman who has done the incredible, made a direct call to Vladimir, no, Krush, Krush, I can't pronounce his name. But anyways, a direct call to get her and her parents. We left off the story. You are in in Lithuania. You get your grandmother. You bring her back to America. She kisses the ground. And now, how did you get on Johnny Carson?
Oh, that's very interesting. Well, they had followed, they being the people on the Johnny Carson show, the producers. Uh, I visited a lot. You know, I guested quite often when I was in New York or if in LA, but mostly New York. I would guest. And of course, this had been something that they had followed for years, my plight of trying to get her out. So naturally, it was like following the perils of Pauline to see what I was doing. So when Johnny brought the show out to California, he of course asked to have my grandmother on it. If that was the cutest darn thing, because there she was, this little woman who didn't speak a word of English, didn't have a tooth in her mouth, rocking back and forth, and Johnny just found her enchanting. By the way, a lot of people ask, and so now's a good time to talk about it. The name Ruta, which you pronounce beautifully, I must say, Ruta with a T. Ruta, translated into English, is Rue, R-U-E. And it doesn't mean the street or rue the day to regret. It is a fragrant flowering herb that grows all over Eastern Europe. And it's the national symbol of Lithuania, much as the rose would be to England or the maple leaf to Canada. And theater curtains are embroidered with a sprig of ruta. Brides wear garlands of it in their hair when they're getting married. It's talked about in every song, in every poem. Painters paint. It's kind of the national symbol, and therefore that explains why I am named Ruta. And I'm happy to say that when I first started in the business, nobody had ever heard the name Ruta. Now I have fans who have named their daughters Ruta and Ruta Lee all over the country, and I'm delighted. So that's the explanation of my name, darling.
Beautiful, beautiful. I just pulled up some just beautiful pictures here. There is you with your grandmother, with Johnny Carson, and you with your grandmother. Such a darling shot there. And you have aged so beautifully. You're hashtag ageless for sure. I'm not even going to ask how old you are
Oh, you
because
can. You can very easily. I'm 88 years old.
really,
Uh huh.
you do not look 88 for sure.
Well,
And
I hope not.
did you hear what I said about being 88% happy?
Oh, I am more
Isn't
than
that isn't
8%.
that crazy? Of course you're 88. It's my
I
favorite number.
That's all part of it. I'm very blessed. I'm blessed to have wonderful friends that make my life totally delicious and wonderful. And above all, like you, just keep laughing your way through everything, no matter where it bites you.
Absolutely. And tell me who you're with here in that glorious you wear hats so well in the middle picture there.
I can't see the middle picture. Oh, that is the wonderful President Adamkus, the former president of Lithuania. Now, this president was mentored by him.
Mm.
And President Adamkus is a great American story because he was born in Lithuania, and as a small child, his family saw what was coming under the Soviet Union and got out of Lithuania, where they literally walked across Lithuania and Germany into camps to be billeted in, and eventually got to the United States. He was educated here, and he became the American dream. Work
Mm.
hard, save your money, don't put your money put your money where your mouth is, and you'll do well. And he did very, very well. And he decided he wanted to do something good for his birth country, Lithuania, after communism. And he went back and became president and did a great deal of good business for Lithuania. He mentored the now president Nauseda and Gitanas Nauseda. And I was delighted to have both presidents in my home in California.
Yes, and I flashed up that picture. I
And
think that's a more recent picture
yes,
of them in
just
your
just last month. Exactly.
that's so beautiful.
And so that is a great deal. And what's very interesting about this is that Nauseda is the unmarried and un-anglicized name for Anne Gillian, the lovely actress Anne Gillian. You must have her on someday.
I would love
She she is a beautiful singer, dancer, etc., etc., and one of my dearest Lithuanian, not only Lithuanian, but one of my sisters, I call her.
to.
And her maiden name is Nauseda. So I'm thinking that the president and she have something very much in common, and that is a last name that in a small country obviously has to be related somewhere down the long line. And the sad part of all of this is that the day before we had the luncheon at my house, very small luncheon, Anne and her husband Andy were invited. They were in a horrific accident,
Hmm.
and he is still in intensive care. This is like a month ago, and she is still bedridden. And everybody send up a prayer that
Yeah, for sure. I
well, she's doing very well. She's coming along, but it'll be a while before she walks.
Hmm.
But I sort of promised her that we would go to Lithuania together and that I would take her to meet the president.
All right. Well, my Cashew Gallery knows the power of breath. So if I could just ask everyone right now just to close their
Please.
outer eye, take a deep breath in through their nose. And we're just going to release the breath of health and healing and just peace and comfort to all those that were affected and very quick healing. And we just know that she's going to feel that energy because I want to see her go to Lithuania with you for sure.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you.
Yes, for sure. Wow, what a story. I'm still now your grandmother spent the rest of her days with you.
2 years, 2 months, and 2 days. And I've always said, if I get through the pearly gates, I have a bone to pick with the Almighty. That is, why such a short time when I labored for so many years to get her here? But I have to stop and think that she was so gloriously happy to be
Mm-hmm.
with me and with her daughter and with her son-in-law. And a sad moment and yet kind of delightful because I'm sure she was smiling when she went.
Yes, for sure.
Her daughters, I had gotten permission to bring over to the United States as well.
Mm-hmm.
She was arriving. She arrived probably 6 hours after my grandmother died. And that
Oh,
is kind of sad. And I was doing the Tonight Show in New York the day my grandmother died. And I had come in, I was doing a play somewhere,
mm-hmm.
come into town. And the producer came to me in my dressing room and he said, Ruta, I'm so sorry to tell you this. I don't know if you're going to want to do the show. Your grandmother just passed. And I said, of course I'll do the show because it was Mr. and Mrs. America, Mr. and Mrs. Generous people of America that welcomed her, that sent her little cards and notes, that sent her little gifts or hankies or scarves or little toys or trinkets of
Mm.
to welcome her. Of course, I'll share that with our audience. And it was a very, very special night. But
That's so great. What was her favorite thing about America?
that you walked on carpets instead of hanging them on the walls. Kilims, all the kilims which were made in of course, the Arabic countries and in Russia. Kilims were beautiful things that hung on the wall. You didn't walk,
Oh,
and she would always have to take her shoes off to walk across the carpets. God love her.
oh, that's so adorable. I'm glad I asked that question.
When we
Um,
were when we were in Moscow trying to get oh God, trying to get the political junk that you have to go through to get out
mm,
of the Soviet Union is awful. And I couldn't do it out of Lithuania where I speak the language. I had to do it out of Moscow where I don't speak the language. And so I would park her rather than leave her in our hotel alone. I would park her at the American embassy in Washington. And as I told you, she was totally toothless.
mm.
This is where she had her first taste of Campbell's cream of mushroom soup. And she thought she'd died and gone to heaven. It was so good.
I was just about
Well,
to ask you what her favorite food was, and of
well,
course
it
you
was
answered
Campbell's
without
cream
I.
of mushroom soup. And I sort of feel like they should send me a few cases for
I think they should. I absolutely agree with you.
that.
And they can send some to me too because I use it for my famous green bean casserole.
Oh, I understand that that's part of the recipe. All right, after the show is over, you'll tell me your recipe.
All right. We'll do that. We'll do that. Yeah, that one of the things that I miss the most about Dawn Wells, who was on my show 5 times and became a friend, I spent Thanksgivings with her, and it was so
One
delightful.
dearest, dearest people that God put on this earth, and I'm so sorry that she left us
I am too.
soon. And
I am too. She was the first personal casualty of COVID, for me. So
yes,
that
of course.
was, but we know she's here.
Oh
I
yes,
still feel her
my
energy whenever I laugh. I hear her laugh. You know, how do you know your grandmother's still around? Like, some people see butterflies or dragonflies. I believe that, no one ever really dies. Their energy, all of that is still here. What reminds you of your grandma?
Walking on carpets.
Yeah, every time.
Of course, of
That
course.
that's
Walking
beautiful.
on carpets.
Yeah.
That to me was a little bit of heaven. And of course, every time I walk on a plane in a jetway, I think about her walking down the stairs.
Mm.
And when we were leaving Moscow, we were on a BOAC flight, British Air. God bless them, they were so wonderful.
Mm.
And they had moved us up to first class, and I thought, whoa, boy, that's very special. And the stewardesses were running up and down the aisles, taking drink orders and being adorable in their little pretty uniforms. And my grandmother tugged at me and she said, "Don't order anything. I don't have any money. I don't have any money." And I said, "Grandma, you can have whatever you want. It's already taken care of. Anything you want. What would you like to have?"
Mhm.
Without a second thought, she said, "Cognac." She had heard about cognac all of her life, but never tasted it. So they brought her one of those lovely little tall ponies, on a stem of cognac.
Mm.
Thought she was going to sip it for 3.5 hours to London. No, she went "Gloop," and down it went. I think she had 5 or 6 of those in London. I
I do not doubt
my
it.
grandmother knew how to drink.
I do not doubt it. So Troy's gonna go get your book. He's already. Where can we get your book?
Oh, Amazon.com is one of the best places, the fastest. Of
Okay.
course, any great bookstore you can do it. I always say, be nice and go to your local bookstore and ask them to order it because it takes a while, but they need the money. COVID did all those lovely little bookstores in, but if you're in a hurry, Amazon will get it for you overnight.
Yes, for sure. Now, you. I had a great question and it just went. Um,
I think what,
oh
what,
yes, I know, because this is important. I just had this thought.
yes, love.
You really do have the qualifications to be a diplomat, in especially now with all this, real conflict, and the perception, the BS, the belief systems that we're carrying, the negative stuff around Russia, the negative stuff around anything over there. um, have you ever thought about becoming a diplomat? I'm sure you've been invited. It's
Well, it would seem to me that I would be a very good ambassador to Lithuania.
Yes.
Be very appropriate because I do speak the language. I mean, I'm not as fluent as I would like to be. There are different kinds of Lithuanian, the same as there are different kinds of English. Depends on where you're brought up and how and what part of the world and what part of the country you're from. I learned a very peasant Lithuanian because that was my family. They were
Mhm.
peasant stock from Lithuania, and so it's not the educated Lithuanian which I would have to learn immediately, but I think that might not be. But it's a lot of work, and I
Well,
don't.
it's politics too.
Oh my lord, my lord! I mean, I'd be good at sipping champagne and making small, but the BS, that's a whole other story. You
Yeah,
you have
yeah.
to be very adept at that.
Now,
And I admire
I'm sure,
anybody who does it.
yeah, I'm sure you follow it. What can you tell us that we don't know or should consider when it comes to all of the politics going on with Russia? And, that you hear the stuff about, them trying to control the news or control the voting, or, just are we all going to war? What do you, what can you share with us to help
I
us?
would share that the Russian people are not the Communist Party. They are because they're forced to be, or they're going to be shipped off to some gulag somewhere. The same way my darling farmer mother, grandmother, and grandfather were, for no reason at all. The Russian people don't necessarily believe, and the Russian mothers now who are losing and have lost their sons to this stupid thing that's going on in the Ukraine. Uh, the Russian people have nothing to do with all of that. It's the pure politics. It's Putin and Putin's cohorts and his henchmen. And I understand that Putin is not well, and I'm thinking, but the guys that follow him will be just as bad.
Mm.
But just remember that the Russian people are the same as the American people. They're very generous. My father used to say, if you're going to starve with somebody, starve with a Russian because he'll give you half of whatever he's got,
Mm.
which is their
Wow.
way of thinking of the people are good.
Mm.
The system sucks.
Right, right. And I think that's a really great thank you point to remember. And before I forget, for all the work that you do, for all the ways in which you are way more than the actress, and just the way that you have shown in your actions the love for your people and your family. I'm giving you Dr. Marissa's Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award.
Thank
And I don't give that to everybody.
bless you.
And
Thank
bless you. Bless
I accept it on behalf of my group, the Thalians, which is Hollywood for Mental Health, and we've been at it. It's almost 70 years now, and when we first started, nobody talked about mental illness. That
Mm.
was the closet disease. It got pushed into a closet and down a dark hole, and along came the Thalians, and shone a spotlight on mental illness, hopefully bringing it into the light of healing. And I'm very proud that this group of dumb, silly actors who got tired of being called hard drinking, pot smoking, sex minded idiots that had to contribute took mental health as a cause. And we built the first building that went in at the Cedar Sinai complex, the Thalians Community Mental Health Center. And we've been doing great work all these years. And then someone came to us and said, you people at Thalians are missing the boat. You're taking care of everything from pediatric through geriatrics in your mental health research and treatment, but you're not doing anything about our veterans, those beautiful young people that we send to every hellhole in the world, and they come back and fall through the cracks. And so that's what we are now doing. So we have joined UCLA and Operation Mend. And if anybody is in Hollywood on December 2nd, we're having an event at the Brentwood
December.
Country.
Okay.
And I invite everybody to come and support us. We are honoring the fabulous actor, philanthropist, humanitarian Gary Sinise, who worries so about our veterans, and performances by Rich Little and
Wow.
the
Do
girls.
I get an invite to this? I would
Absolutely,
love to
December 2nd.
go.
But God
Wow,
bless
this is
you
phenomenal.
and your listeners, and thank you for letting me talk about the
Oh
Thalian.
no, I'm so glad that I mentioned it by accident. No accidents, and I'm so glad that it's funny because when I mentioned the mental health, I had no idea. And I already gave you the award, so I can't give you another one. But this was
I accept it on behalf of not just myself, but my late dearest friend, Debbie Reynolds. We ran the organization together for 60 some odd years. And I'm now emeritus, but still very, very much involved. A small, we don't do the great big huge events. We honored everybody from Frank Sinatra through Lucille Ball, through Sally Field, through, gosh, name me a name.
Dr. Phil. I saw the one Dr. Phil was the year
Dr.
before.
Phil was last year's honoree.
Yeah, and McGraw.
Yeah,
That
yes,
was
Robin.
the year before Robin
They
McGraw.
were wonderful recipients, just wonderful. It took me, and I got him 20 years to get Clint Eastwood.
You got
20 years.
Eastwood?
He's
Oh,
very shy and resident, resident? No, no, reticent about being honored and kind of being the star of the show, you know.
And that's the guy he is for
He is
sure.
so delicious and he is so fabulous. And I said to him, I called him like a month before our birthdays. I said, "You've got to do it this year. You know, October is our date. You're going to be our honoree." And he said, and I said, I want you to give me a birthday present and say yes. And he said, "Okay, but I'll give you give me a birthday present and tell me I don't have to come."
Ah,
So that's the kind of guy he is. But he was
that's
just
so
wonderful, and I just
awesome.
adore him.
Yeah, well, you just definitely follow the rule. I just don't have any actors or actresses, legendary or not, on the show. They have to be using their limelight to shine on temporary areas of darkness. And you've done that in so many different ways. Ruta, you truly are one of a kind, wonderful. I'm so delighted that I've been able to have this time with you. Is there anything else? You get the final word, is that you haven't said? Oh, I know what I want you to do. Can you give a blessing in Lithuanian to anyone that's listening now or later? That is definitely something special for me. You can give it to me for my birthday as well, which I celebrate all year. I'm a Leo in five planets. Can you tell?
Oh, my mother was a Leo, and Lucy was a Leo.
There you go.
Yeah,
There you
exactly.
go. Yeah, I had
Very
Lucy's
smart.
daughter on.
Here
So,
we go.
yeah.
Dieve palaimink visus daktarų Melisės klausytojus ir žiūrėtojus ir palaimink ne tik tai mus visus, ale palaimink Ameriką. Mwah.
Oh,
Ask God to
shit.
bless you, all your listeners, and not just you and your listeners, but all of America.
Oh, shit. That's Mandarin for thank you. Shit. Yeah, that is so beautiful.
Thank
Well,
you. And thank you for being the beautiful source that you are and shining a spotlight on those people who really are doing their best to to put a spotlight on their problems, temporary or not. God bless you.
yes, thank you. And God bless you. He already does. Troy's happy. Another great show, another great guest. Thank you to me giving us the time. He feels blessed this morning. Just really, really just love it. Have a beautiful time in Mexico.
Thank you. Just a few more days and home to the event. I have seating to do.
Yes, you do. And bless you for all that you do and
Thank
continue to do.
thank you.
All
Thank you
right.
for the opportunity.
Of course.
Bye for now, everybody. See you soon.
Bye-bye. Oh, I know what I want you to do. I'm letting you go a minute early because I actually just stay on for a second. I wanted to direct everyone's attention to. I'm sure you know him. He's been on my show several times. Ralph Malf Don Most
Oh,
is
of
the
course.
yes. He's actually moving up the charts. And Troy just reminded me you can vote once a week. Go to heritagechart.co. Last time we checked, he was 23rd on the charts. He's moved up to number 8. So you can only vote once a week. So just go there and vote, and you will get help Dawn out. And that's why I wanted to say goodbye early, but I'm glad that you're still here because I sign out in a very different way at the end of every show. I'm all about peace. So if you would repeat after me, you go like this: peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace. This is Dr. Marissa reporting live from my living room with legendary actress Ruta Lee. And now I want you all to have the best day ever. We'll see you tomorrow, Doctors in the House special series. Thank you again. Bye, Ruta.
Commissioner of the
All
state's
right,
Division of Homeland
and
Security and
bye.
Emergency Services, Jackie Bray, says there has been an increase in calls for violence from inside and outside